Have you ever felt like you're in great shape, but then wondered, how fit am I really? You know, there's a big difference between just feeling fit and actually knowing it. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on standardized fitness tests, the very same tools the pros use to measure performance and track their progress. Let's dive in.
So first things first, why even bother with all this testing? Well, it really boils down to a simple idea. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Slapping a number on your performance is that first, crucial step to stop guessing and start truly unlocking your athletic potential. I mean, think about it. Without actual data, how do you know if all that hard work is paying off? You're kind of just hoping for the best, right? But the moment you start measuring, you suddenly have a roadmap. You have a starting point and a clear path forward. And this testing gives you so much. It lets you set really specific goals. It shines a spotlight on what you're good at, and maybe more importantly, where you need to improve. Watching those numbers climb over time, that's a huge motivator. And all of that info helps you do the most important thing of all: build a smarter training program that actually works for you. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty, starting with a huge part of athletic performance: agility. We're going to check out two of the most common tests used to measure this exact skill. So what even is agility? Put simply, it's your ability to change direction super quickly without losing speed. This is absolutely critical in sports like rugby or football, where you're constantly trying to dodge opponents and react to a play that's changing every second.
So how do we actually put a number on that?
Well, a fantastic way is with the Illinois Agility Test. It's a really solid all-around test that measures how well an athlete can sprint, turn, and weave their way through a specific course. And what's cool about this test is the course itself. It's not just a straight-line sprint. The athlete has to follow this exact pattern of cones as fast as they can, which really challenges their ability to hit the gas, slam on the brakes, and change direction on a dime. And how do you do it? Well, the protocol is pretty simple. You set up this 10 by 5 meter course. The athlete starts out lying face down. The second they hear go, they pop up and tear through the course. The whole thing is timed from start to finish. It's simple, but it's incredibly revealing. Now, let's talk practical stuff. The Illinois test is awesome because the equipment is so basic. You just need a few cones and a stopwatch. It's also considered highly valid for sports that have a lot of that weaving and dodging, like football. The only real catch? You can only test one person at a time, so it can be a little slow if you've got a whole team to get through. But here's a key question. Is it the right test for every sport? Let's think about a tennis player. For them, another test called the T-test is actually a much better fit. Why? Because it focuses on forward, side-to-side, and backward shuffling while always facing forward, which is exactly what a tennis player does on the court. It's a more valid test because it mimics the sport's actual movements. It's all about picking the right tool for the job. Okay, next up we're talking about power. And this isn't just about pure strength. We're talking about explosive strength, how quickly you can generate a whole lot of force. So yeah, power is all about that explosive burst of energy. Think of it as the engine for anything that requires a sudden, massive movement, like jumping up for a rebound in basketball or blasting off the starting blocks in a sprint. A really classic way to measure this is the vertical jump test. And it's so easy to do. You just stand next to a wall, reach up as high as you can, and make a mark. Then, from a complete standstill, you jump as high as possible and make another mark. Your final score is just the difference between those 2 points. Simple as that. But hey, power isn't only about going up. The standing long jump, which you might also hear called the broad jump, tests your horizontal power. So how far forward can you launch your body from a dead stop? And this really brings us back to that idea of choosing the right test for the right sport. The vertical jump? Super valid for athletes in sports like basketball or volleyball. But the standing long jump? That's a much better predictor for sports like, well, the long jump or even hurdles. The great thing is, both of these are super practical and need barely any equipment. Right, let's move on to our final fitness component for today, balance. And, it's important to realize there are actually 2 types we're talking about here. There's static balance, which is all about holding perfectly still, and then there's dynamic balance, which is about staying in control while you're moving. To test static balance, we've got the Stork Stand test. You've probably seen this one before. It's a total classic for a reason. It simply measures how long you can hold a very specific one-legged position without falling over. Now, the rules for this one are super specific. First, take your shoes off and put your hands on your hips. Then, you lift one foot and place the sole against the inside of your other knee. Then, and this is the tricky part, you raise the heel of your standing foot so you're balancing on the ball of that foot. The clock starts right then, and it stops the instant you break form. If your hands move, your foot slips, or your heel drops. Okay, now let's contrast that with the Y-Balance test. This one measures dynamic balance. Think about a gymnast on a balance beam. They aren't just standing still. They have to maintain perfect control while they're moving, tumbling, and landing. That's dynamic balance, and it's essential for sports like that. So, when you look at these two side by side, you can really see the trade-offs. The Stork Stand is fantastic because it's so simple and you don't need any special gear, though it might not work for people with certain mobility issues. The Y-Balance test is an amazing tool for dynamic balance, but you do need the special Y-Balance equipment to do it properly. Whew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So now that you've been listening so well, let's put that new knowledge to the test with a quick question, just like something you might see on an exam. Here you go. Which of the following is not a suitable test for measuring power? Your options are A, broad jump, B, standing long jump, C, vertical jump test, or D, the T-test. Take a second. Think back on what each test is designed to measure. And the correct answer is D, the T-test. Yep. Remember, the broad jump, the standing long jump, and the vertical jump are all classic tests for explosive power. The T-test, on the other hand, is all about agility, that ability to change direction quickly. So this brings us to our final thought for today. We've seen how the pros break down fitness and use really specific, valid tests to measure performance. So now I'm turning the question to you. Think about your favorite sport, or even just your workout at the gym. How would you design the perfect fitness test for it? What components would you choose to measure, and what tests would you use? That's where the real training magic begins.